Hi, and welcome to our first lesson about percents. This lesson is titled the percent equation. Now, before we dig into the lesson, let's talk a little bit about percents. Like, what is a percent? How do you find it? Think about maybe when you take a test, when you get your test back, what kind of information or numbers do you need to use, and what do you need to do with those numbers in order to figure out your percent? Well, hopefully you're thinking that you need to know how many questions you got correct and how many total questions there were. A percent is a part out of a whole, or a part divided by a whole. Now, there are different ways that we can write percents. Typically, we would see them maybe like this, 17%. But what are other ways that we could write 17%? Like, what is 17%? What's it mean, or what's it out of? Well, percents are always out of 100, so we could say 17 over 100, and that would also mean 17%. Well, 17 hundredths can even be written as a decimal. 17 hundredths, it's in the hundredths place, and that's how we read it. We have something called the percent equation, and it comes from this idea of knowing that percent is the part divided by the whole. If we were to multiply both sides of our equation by the whole, we can do things to an equation as long as we do the same thing to both sides. Then when you take the whole, when you take the part times the whole and divide it by the whole cancels out, and we just see that the whole times the percent gives us the part. And that's where we get our percent equation. Oops, too far. The percent equation says that the part equals the percent times the whole. Using this equation can help us solve a lot of percent-related questions. Now, there's another way that we solve percent-related questions using a proportion, which we learned about already, and that would be also going back to this idea that percent is the part over the whole. We say that the percent, and we put it over 100, equals the part over the whole. This is the percent proportion. Kind of the same idea of what we started with, just getting that 100 in there so we have a nice proportion. Now, there are key words that we're going to see as we work with percent problems, and this will make more sense when we get there, that can help us identify what's the part and what's the whole. And those keywords are is and of. And we'll see that whenever we get to some examples. But that also kind of means that when we talk about this percent proportion, a lot of people will say P over 100, P standing for percent, equals is over of, since is a keyword for the part and of is a keyword for the whole. All right, let's look at our lesson. Now, the percent equation is kind of where we're focusing, but we're also going to talk about that percent proportion a lot too. The percent equation is in the same format as the equations that we talked about whenever we talked about proportional relationships. The percent is our constant of proportionality. The part is our dv, and the whole is our iv. Now, when we have this percent equation, we can use it to find a lot of things and solve a lot of problems. If we know the percent and we know the whole, we can use the percent equation to find the part. If we know the part and we know the percent, we can find the whole. And if we know the part and the whole, we can also find the percent. As long as we know two of the three, we can find the last missing value. All right, before we actually find any values or solve any problems, we're just going to think about some of these situations and just decide, is the question asking for the part, the percent, or the whole? Okay, now let's look at A. It says 4 is what percent of 6? What's this question looking for? The part, the percent, or the whole? Hopefully you realize it's asking for the percent, as it says what percent. What would be our part and what would be our whole in this problem? Look for those key words. 4 would be our part. 6 would be our whole, because they're found by the words is and then also of. All right, now this one looks a lot like the percent equation. Let's remember that the part equals the percent times the whole. So looking at this example, 65 equals 30 over 100 times x. What is this question asking for? What's the missing value? Hopefully you're noticing that it's the whole. The percent we can see is written as a fraction. 30 over 100 is 30%, and then we know the part. So this question is looking for the whole. What is 79% of 126? Well, we're obviously not looking for the percent. We already know it. So we have to decide, is this question looking for the part or the whole? Well, let's use our key words. Is and of. Is indicates a part and of indicates a whole. So we know the whole. This question is asking for the part. All right, here's another question that's in percent equation format. 11 equals m times 50. Think back to our percent equation. What is it looking for? The percent. Here's another one. Same format. Think about the percent equation. What's it looking for? The part. And lastly, 4% of what number is 12? Well, we know the percent. Let's look for those key words. Of what number is 12? We know the part. 12 is by the word is. What number? We don't know this number. It's by the word of. We are looking for the whole. Hopefully you're getting the hang of this. Try this one. Pause the video, see if you can identify the correct answer. 190 is 10% of what number? We know the percent, we know the part, we're looking for the whole. It's important that we can identify whether we're looking for the part, the whole, or the percent, just so that we can identify the correct values being the correct parts of the percent equation, or even the proportion if we choose to use it. Okay, before we do examples from the lesson, I really just need us to get the hang of this. You can solve problems involving percents using the percent equation or the percent proportion. It is important that you understand both methods because we're going to be using those types of methods for a lot of things throughout the year. But we want to try them both, and then it's okay if you decide that you just like using one method better, and that's fine. I think sometimes maybe it even depends on the question. Maybe one method is easier than another. Okay, so let's try the percent equation to answer this question. Part equals percent times the whole. All right. In our question, it says, what is 34% of 500? What is 34% of 500? We're looking for the part, so that's where you can put our variable. We don't know the part. We know the percent. Now, we can't just put 34, because 34 isn't the same as 34%. So we're going to have to either choose to write it as a fraction or a decimal. Now, most students would choose to write a decimal instead. I think just most students would rather not deal with fractions. So we write 34% as a decimal. we would write 0.34. And then our whole is 500. All right, we're trying to figure out the part or the variable x, so we just need to multiply these values and we'll be finished. $170. All right, we can also try this using the percent proportion. P over 100 equals the part over the whole is over F. Okay, in this problem, again, we knew the percent. We're just writing it over 100. See, in the proportion, you're like always using the fraction method of writing your percents. The 100's already there for you. And then we were looking for the part, and we knew the whole, 500. Now there's different ways you can solve proportions. You could cross multiply, x times 100, 34 times 500, or I think in this case, you can just notice here that it's times 5. So 34 times 5, 170. And we get the same answer, just using a different method. All right, let's try another example. Five is 80% of what number? When we use the percent equation, we would do the, well, I guess I'll go ahead and write it. Part equals percent times whole. Okay, looking at the question, 5 is 80% of what number? We know the percent is 80. We can write it as a decimal. We know the part is 5. In this problem, we're looking for the whole. Now, here, our problem is a little different. Our last problem, we just had to multiply those values to get our answer. In this problem, we kind of like have the answer to the problem. Oh, this times that equals 5. But we need to work backwards to solve it. Since this is a multiplication problem and we're working backwards, we would divide instead on both sides. 0.80 cancels out. 5 divided by 0.8. We can use our calculator. 6.25. Okay, now we can also use the percent proportion. Shortcut way of writing it. The percent we know is 80 over 100, since the percent. The part is 5, and the whole we do not know. We can solve this in a variety of ways. I'll go ahead and cross multiply. 100 times 5 is 500. 80 times x is 80x. To solve, I divide by 80 on both sides. 500 divided by 80. Is, again, 6.25. So whatever method you like, you can start using it. Let's try both methods one last time. In our first example, we were looking for the part. In this example, we were looking for the whole. Let's try an example where we're having to find the percent. 8 is what percent of 40? The percent equation would be part equals percent, we don't know it, times the whole. Now again, we have a multiplication problem. I see that multiplication sign, but we don't know what number is supposed to be multiplying. So we're going to have to work backwards to solve this, and we're actually going to divide. We'll divide on both sides. The 40s cancel. 8 divided by 40. You can use our calculator for that. This gives us 0.2. Now, hold on a second. The question asks for what percent? 0.2, that's not a percent really, but we can make it be 1. Slide that decimal 2 times, 20%. 0.2 is the same as 20%. All right, let's try